Firstly, I would like to thank everyone from HCSC for organizing this event. Um, to quickly take this forward, I think with the incredible panelists we have here, and the topic being adolescent girls and adolescent young women. So I'm just going to share a little experience as I walked out to use the restroom, and I think we should use that as a starting point. And there were a bunch of young women, and మీరందరూ ఇక్కడ ఉన్నారని అనుకుంటున్నాను. They were standing outside, and they were all chit-chatting. The moment I walked out and I looked at them and I said, "Where's the restroom?" They all went silent. They stood like they did something wrong. That I asked them some question or faulted them for something, and then I was wondering, why did you get so scared? I just asked you where the restroom is. And one of them just smiled and. Then I realized that it's a new world for young women. Very new world for young women, especially adolescent women. Congratulations, Dr. Anupama, for the fantastic report, the research and report that the police has helped, the department has helped, gives a lot of insight, So I will request you to first just give us a small, very brief summary on what you think we can use as takebacks from the data you have.
Thank you, Supriya, and a very good afternoon to all of you. I hope I'm audible. First, I would like to thank the HCSC for giving us this opportunity to conduct a small study, and we have done a preliminary analysis of what we have studied. As we all understand, coming from the culture where we belong, that family environment is very, very important, and how that shapes and influences. So we are talking about flourishing, we are talking about building and empowering a very important individual, that is a woman here. And we considered that as one of the important variable, and also saw what is the well-being of adolescent girls. Since its environments are now hugely changing, and media's influence and especially through mobile phone usage is also noted, we try to even explore what's happening with our adolescent girls. So our population sample was primarily belonging to government and private schools. And what we have seen, I'll just give a gist, that family environment definitely played a very important role. And the usage of mobile phone was not very much noted because they're all school-going girls. Social media also is there, but then it is not so glaring to right now. But when we observe their well-being and all, it is moderate. That is, I can say that I wouldn't know whether they're really going towards positive or they're going to come down from where they are. They're in the moderate level. So these are some very quick observations we have. I probably will share more in the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think to just come very quickly to important key things that we can speak about risk behavior. We have been noticing that, amongst youngsters, me being a parent myself of an adolescent girl, I hear a lot that there are two or many sides to young children nowadays. One that they show to the family members, and the other that they truly who they are. Now, this is because we are in an emerging India, cultural changes. Parents don't even want to use words like sexual, reproductive, addiction. They don't want to use those words. But the moment we open our phones, everything is out there. So I would request risk behavior. We talk about risk behavior in the sense of communication on sexual health, reproductive health, primarily addictions, because I'm told that addiction and addictive behavior in young women, if they are exposed to it, can be very, very strong. Rubina, who would like to start on this?
As the doctor mentioned just now, hi, thanks everybody for inviting me here. I'm Rubina. I think it's a wonderful meeting, and especially the keynote address, the way it started off, and the note it set for the entire program was brilliant, I feel. And congratulations to HCHC for setting this out and opening up this dialogue on security for adolescents, security for youth. So as we speak about women today, I feel equally vulnerable are the male children, the male adolescent boys. So we do a lot of skill trainings and livelihood activities at grassroots level. And as we talk to young adults, which is in the age group 18 to 24, we see a lot of self-resilience coming in. I mean, that's the only kind of a self-support system that they have set up for themselves. So they are not relying on anything external, which is, okay, we'll get help from counselors, or, psychiatrists would come in, or parents would support us, or even the school would support us. There is no support system for people at the grassroots level. Secondly, as we talk of mobile penetration in India, we see only 31% of the girls are given mobile phones in their hand. Now, that itself is a very disempowering activity. 61% of where is the empowerment coming in? Where is the risk behavior coming in? So, before we move on to digital, I feel we really need to look internally at the society first, starting from the home, starting to the neighborhood, and then going on to the larger global arena that we have. So, risk behavior, when you say, Supriya, I would say yes, there are risks which are associated with this entire thing. Ideally, we need to pick up examples like probably the best education system existing these days is in Finland. And where they talk about risk behavior, they also they address issues of, how to use social media, how to use IT tools effectively. So there is a lot of things going on behind risk behavior. We need to look at good examples, I feel.
Thank you for that insight. Anupama, please.
You would like to talk about. And I have worked in the field of HIV for some time, and we have seen a lot of risk behaviors involved by adolescent girls, and I mean they become so vulnerable, and nobody addresses that. And to the thing that you told about, like we are displaying a public and private persona. That is somewhere we've created that kind of a context for the children and people around us, where we are not given that space. Now the space is very important to have a dialogue within the families, or in the close circles, to actually discuss about all of these. That space is very important, especially when it comes to risk behaviors. So again, we find that family is also one very important, and friends is very one important space that they can have, with whom they can interact and talk about these things. And again, the resources, the knowledge, and whom to reach out, the support, these are very important critical parameters that we need to really go at length and talk. And we have seen that when we look into the STI infections that are there, you find that it's really high. And that's where the problem is again. So we need to probably do a lot of investigation and do.
So this morning, when there was a question saying that most of us like to say that we all come from happy homes, happy childhoods, everything is very happy. And then you ask a child, if you had a problem, who would you go and speak to? And then you realize most children hit a blank. And apparently in our households, because of the cultural things that we don't talk about problems, we try to cover up the problems. There's so much shame and guilt attached to anything that you may be facing. So the starting of saying, yesterday when we were having a preliminary chat, we spoke about counseling. However, now if I can't go at home, I'm not, how do parents, because I mean, right now we have a mixed bag of people, but what would you advise for this question? Saying that I have a problem as a child or an adolescent, who do you speak to? And the answer 90% of the time is no one. What should an elder or anybody in the circle say to that? Or how do we address that? Because counseling seems very far.
Yeah. Generally, it's a very apt question, because when we ask immediately, who is very close to you, with whom you share the problems. Most of the children, especially the adolescent girls, the immediate reaction is a question mark will be there. But again, when we ask in a modest way, like generally, if there is any help that you require, with whom you would like to, because the term counseling is unfortunately very much abused in the society. There are lots of reasons for that. So probably when we talk to the adolescents in a lighter vein and coming to their level, like when there is an issue or when you have some kind of an situation which you would like to discuss with, when we say family plays an important role, parenting styles play an important role for the personality development of the children, but unfortunately in most of the cases it is not the family to whom they are turning. It is mostly the peer group. And here when we turn to the peer group, what sort of a peer group they are having? Is it a good peer group or a bad peer group? That also matters, because sometimes the kind of the discussions that they have, the kind of the guidance that they get from the peers, most of the time it is in the negative track. So I think first of all, making it a too professional question like counseling, we should not use such words probably with the children, because it's not clear to them. And especially like when we see from the rural areas, they're not aware of concept of human behavior or psychology or the kind of professional counseling. So I think we have to come down to their level, probably talk to them in their own understanding.
So aptly put, Swati, because I feel that we're living in not one or two or three Indias, but many, many Indias. And depending on the child, depending on the problem, depending on the society, the immediate family, then their larger society, even the way we have to ask questions changes, you know. So, Doctor, would you like to take that forward and add your two-bit?
Thank you, Supriya. Once again, thank you to HCSC for organizing this fantastic forum for all of us to discuss, and for many others who are even seated in the audience who can think a lot more along with us, and you can arrive at certain solutions or conclusions. Now, firstly, every child, be it a boy or girl, an adolescent, is today challenged with, I would say, three different things, three different matters or three different issues. Firstly, they are all isolated. So most of the adolescents are self-centered. They do not come out, nor do they interact much with the parents or even with the social circle. And that could be one of the reasons why, adolescents are going through a lot of trauma within their own thinking, not really sharing what they may be facing. Secondly, they are self-engaged. What I mean by self-engaged is because they are all the time doing things which could perhaps, be prompted by somebody, or maybe they are engaged because they do not know how to occupy themselves in a world which is very busy. Parents are busy, grandparents are busy. Also, you go to the school and you have a hectic schedule because you have your works to be done, your activities to be done, your studies to be done. So adolescents are, traumatized by being self-centered, self-engaged, and there is a greater challenge, and that is to be self-empowered all the time, because they need to face their challenges. Therefore, they need to keep empowering themselves, trying to see how they can better themselves, how to see that in the competition that they face, they can fare even better. So if you take the environment of a child, the child is in a way, living in a world where we think we are providing a lot, we think we are supplying a lot of information, we also think we are providing with, comforts, we are providing them with provisions wherein they can go for activities, where they can have tuition teachers or somebody to help them in their study. But then actually the child is facing a lot of trauma today. And therefore, if you say counseling, they don't like it. They rebel. Perhaps, there should be an outcome out of this discussion wherein we see that how can we, actually give that comfort zone to our children today. When we talk of adolescents, especially not counseling, but perhaps coaching, perhaps some other ways and avenues that we can come to.
So, being a parent, I feel that any word such as this, or any instruction, or anything that comes out in the tone of instruction, advice, even amongst people, they feel alone because they are not connected. Now, where without big words like counseling? I mean, I'm just trying to strip it down that we can walk out of here with something saying that helps us, you know, when. So I'm saying, is there something differently and in a very simple way without using coaching, counseling, larger words that are already out there like trauma and these words which are all being thrown at everybody? You know, you must be traumatized or there must be a mental health problem. Because if you pick 10 adolescent kids or adolescent young adults who are not, you know, when Rubina said 18 to 24, and I'm thinking, 18 to 24, that's not what I'm thinking. I'm thinking 15. 14, 15 is when all this starts. So they don't want to talk. You want to give them instruction all the time. And the world out there is very, very exciting, though it's not, it's exciting and engaging, but it's not connecting. What do you do? I mean, not what does a youngster do, but what does anyone do? Where do we, and from Nagi's thing, I'm going to kind of direct this, Dr. Nagi's thing, where he said, the others need to see, the others need to validate. Does that anyway come into play to make things easier for them?
I think there should be a multi-dimensional approach, regular society, right? So the contributions from the school in the form of teachers, from the family, the peer group, all these things will be interacting with the child. So here, like when we have to make them like be ready to interact with the people around or to know about themselves, I think the first thing is creating some awareness programs in the school for the parents, for the teachers also. Because most often parents deny when we try to help the child, parents immediately say like my child is happy, there is no problem with the child or with ourselves. So here like when we see in the counseling sessions, most of the problems which we consider, which we feel, they are the root cause from the family itself, most of the things. So whether it could be the marital discord that is having an impact, or the sibling rivalries, or the gender discrimination that is happening, especially even in the rural areas now, that is still there. So all these things might be affecting the child, might be making the child feel isolated, not heard by the parents. So I think from the parents' side, we need to start that awareness as to how they have to understand their teenagers. In fact, know your child, know your pupil for the teachers. So unfortunately, even the teachers, though they are trained in most of the schools, probably they are very efficient in discharging their academic duties, but not in understanding the child. So I think
You're
that
so
awareness.
right. Last night, and I'm going to interrupt you here because when I told my daughter I'm going for this event, she said, why are they speaking to you? Shouldn't they be speaking to me?
Yeah.
I think we should have had an adolescent over here as part of the panel, honestly, really, because they get the other dimension. So it's very easy for us to sit and speak about children, adolescents over here. But taking forward what Doctor said just now is providing that ecosystem for the children to thrive in. So that ecosystem begins from the family. So is the family aware that the children are undergoing some kind of mental stress or trauma? It begins from the parents. You're rightly talking about it, that the parents are responsible. So do the parents understand it? Do the teachers going out of the home, do the teachers recognize those symptoms in the child? And outside, this community in general, the community, the society, we, us sitting over here are equally responsible for that child who is undergoing any kind of stress or trauma. So what do we do to actually, we're talking about the situation, what is the solution over here? So unless you come out with solutions, offer alternative stuff to them, which is what Dr. Nagi was talking about, is, the tallest oak in a forest. I will talk about this. The tallest oak in the forest didn't just become tall because it's supposed to be an oak. It got the right seed, it got the right soil, it got the right amount of sunlight, it got the right amount of rainfall, and that's how it grew so tall. So we need to be looking at the ecosystem, offering children, alternatives which are about, we are going on to offering alternatives like give them playgrounds to play, give them libraries. As I was growing up, we had libraries. We would just reach out to libraries, community libraries are there. So we need to be looking at things like that.
May I just take it here? Because, I've actually started some schools. So there are many adolescents and even the 11th and 12th graders. Mental enrichment for our students and our children. Because we believe more in how fast can we do things. And students also believe a lot more in how quickly can I get my result, be it an answer or whatever. And they have an answer for every question. Number two is coming to the parental counseling. There is a wide gap because there is a generation gap. Every 3 years or 5 years, the generation changes. Perhaps it's every 3 years now. Because, children are much brighter, much smarter. A little first grade child would turn around to tell his or her parent that she knows much more than the parent. Because the child is aware of many things over the cell phone. And then if the parent is trying to check, the child says, I already know about this. And you don't have to tell me. So there is a kind of a nature that we are developing a child. But coming back to what Ms. Rubina was just sharing and even Swati here, what we see is that how can we bring them back to being closer to their natural self, which is home, which is learning in a natural way, and also, growing up more healthy, the well-being. It's not just the outside, the physical well-being, but the inner well-being, which is the spiritual well-being, emotional well-being, mental well-being. These are the areas that we are talking about. We are talking about big fancy words, but then it is a very natural process in a child. And how can this natural process be nurtured just like we did? I think one of the ways is by, inspiring every child to develop good habits. How many of our children do reading today? How many of them really love to be with books in the library? When you take them to the library, even schools like where I go, we see that all children want to use only the digital library. You ask them to go into the racks and take out the books, they don't want to. They want to open the system and see the digital library. So children are, they need to be told or they need to have. So one of the things I said is, developing good habits, providing such an environment to a child. What the parent may do is provide that kind of an environment at home where the family can sit together, have a meal together, share their thoughts together, share their fun times together. But this is lacking because parents, their holidays are different, parental leave days are, so it goes
Very
on that
deep-rooted,
way.
very deep-rooted, but I think what I'm hearing from here is simple, very simple things. Try to find the simple things, a little bit more recreation, a little bit more fun, a little bit more lightness, and maybe a little slower if that's possible. So here I think that there's so many young people here. I really would request any one of you, anyone who would consider themselves to be an adolescent, if from our conversation here you have any suggestions for us. I'm not going to ask you to come, maybe make us a bit wiser, because looking at us, I really do want one of you to come up. Take your time. You have about 5 minutes. So 1, 2, 3 of you just pop your hand up. And trust me, it will be an experience, even if you're going to get a little butterflies in your stomach. This will be something you'll remember. Use this opportunity. Somebody's already there. Yay, who? Yes. But then, okay, come on, Mama.
As a teacher, we are not getting that much time to interact with students because lots of syllabus. We don't have time because monthly we have to complete the syllabus. In that way, how we'll spend more and more and more time with children, how will relate it to with real life, I want that suggestion. If we'll relate to their life with real life, we cannot cover our syllabus. So how both will do equally, that syllabus and real life experience. These two things I want to know how we'll manage.
Sorry, just one line solution I can say is the student to teacher ratio, the student relationship grow. Yes.
We cannot reduce the syllabus, whatever syllabus we are having. So we cannot reduce that one. We cannot add more real life experience.
Syllabus is already designed by the board, whichever board you see. But then at the primary schooling level, the school has liberty to reduce the syllabus and can go to deeper learning. Whereas when you reduce the numbers, if a teacher has only 12 students to deal with, she can do much better and she can develop a bonding with the students. That's what I would say.
So I'm going to step in here and say it's the system. We're fighting a system. And this, the smallest way we can start is when you said syllabus versus the real person. I think pick the real person for a start, you know, and then yes, is syllabus going to make my life? Yes, it's important. But I mean, I think all of us teachers, 1 second.
I think definitely there is a structural solution to that, but sometimes like structural policies is not in our hands. But what we can do is, as psychologists, our suggestion could be, see, like in every school, there are some teachers who can be really more empathetic to the students. So I think we can train the senior teachers who can work as like, say like counselors or teacher counselors, not purely the psychologists, as teacher counselors, but we don't give that naming. So who can give at least half an hour in a week, where you can give some allotment of the time to the required students who really talk to you. So at least like by giving 10 minutes or 15 minutes in a week, whoever is coming to you, I think at least some of the students can be really helped, who really require either support or anything. Thereby, like probably you can refer to them if necessary to a professional, or in certain cases, just interaction with the family members can be helping a lot. I think that can be thought of probably wherever you are working. Some of them can be trained. So it is apart from your regular things, but not everyday duty. Because in some of the schools we are training the teachers also in basic helping skills, like how they can empathize, how they can understand, how they can identify what sort of, why the child is not able to perform academically. Most of the time it is not because of lack of intelligence, but it is because of various other things like feeling lonely or getting disturbed due to some family disturbances, or it could be health issues or anything that is bothering. So as teachers, if you can pick up those symptoms and then talk to them, if it is not a severe thing, definitely I think that can be sought out. So once in a week, some different teachers can be identified for that.
One small sentence here is involve the parents. Parental workshops work really well. Invest in the parents, have workshops for them on how to handle this. It will solve the problems.
So I think everything is pointing out to kids. It's not you, it's us. It's not you at all. So I didn't get any younger person who would educate us a little bit. But I do encourage you to take a pencil and a paper if you don't want to ask a question. I see some, yes, thank you. Please stand up and someone, can you pass? I'm sorry, ma'am, I'm going to let the younger lady speak there just because she has priority.
Am I audible?
Very.
Yes. Studies going on, or how are you, how is your basically that career part of your life going on? I would have preferred if they asked, how are you dealing with it? Or how are you feeling with it? How are you taking the stress of exams? Instead of how are you preparing for exams, I would have preferred if they asked me, how are you dealing with the stress of exams? There was always this one professor in college who usually sends a mail the night before the exam saying, this one paper is not going to decide your future, but please don't worsen your mental health for this one paper. So it's always important to focus on how they're feeling about things that are going on in their lives rather than things that are going on in their lives.
Thank you so much for that. And I think we're ending this panel discussion on, I think, how do you feel? How do you feel is the question. We have to learn how to ask more. Thank you so much for that. Thank you, dear panelists, and thank you everyone who's organized this, Geeta, Anandita, all of you all. I think I'm taking, we make them more meaningful, because I do think that if there's one of you there who is standing up to share a thought, I can actually, it's palpable. I can feel the questions, and I can feel that you want to stand up. I see a bunch of you there, a bunch of you there. And so maybe we can, again, I can request again, let's do sessions like this and let them talk. Thank you very much. Thank you.